Hello YouTube, the walrus has arrived. So, with the popularity of My Hero Academia, or Boku no Hero Academia if you want to get technical, there is a problem that arises for me in noticing that One's Justice's DLC is no longer getting released. I don't know the technicality of if they just finished up the DLC, but we only really got 2 DLC characters. That would be Endeavor and Inasa, because Shoot Style Deku was originally supposed to be in the base game. So, what is next for the series, as video games go? I believe there will be a My Hero Academia One's Justice 2. With the DLC being cancelled, honestly, it just reinforces the fact that I think Bandai especially will look to profit from My Hero Academia because of the popularity of the series, how big it is. So, with that, I'm going to go over who I think will be in the next game's base roster. I put 25 characters in the base roster as an ideal because, again, I consider Shoot Style Deku base roster for the original game. So with that in mind, we have 21 original base roster characters in the original game. So with that, we'll just shoot right into it. Number 1, I think we'll have Shoot Style Deku. Shoot Style Deku because the original game's story ended off with, well, it ended off with the All for One fight. And then you get the extra chapter, which is the tournament arc. Or the UA Sports Festival, or whatever you want to call it. But Shoot Style Deku it's Deku's new style of combat. He uses his legs more than his fists. Because, you know, his arms are, if they get damaged 3 more times or so, he'll lose the ability to use them. I think Shoot Style Deku is the only Deku that's going to be playable, not the original Deku. A, because I want to have more slots for wildcard characters that I'll get into. And B, because Deku's evolving as a character and in combat. He's changing. And I don't think they'll keep the past tethered to him through the game, you know? But, anyway, moving on to the next one. Next is Bakugo. Katsuki Bakugo, just because he's a big character. Like, if you're gonna have a My Hero game, you can't not have Bakugo. And his combos were very counterproductive in the original game. In the original game, it was very much, you hit someone, you knock them away from you. Even though all his moves were close range, and could only really, except for one move, he couldn't do much from a ranged distance. So, maybe they'll tweak him a bit to be able to fight at better ranges, and maybe he won't be as counterproductive in the second game. Or they could just use the same model and same moves and be cheap about it, but I hope not, because if this becomes a real game, I really want to see a good Bakugo, because I love Bakugo. I know the fandom's kind of split, but in my opinion, Bakugo's a good character. Next up, we have Todoroki. Self-explanatory. He's a fan favorite character. I mean, he's just Todoroki. He's awesome. Alright, moving on to number 4, we have Kirishima. Ijiro Kirishima. And I might be pronouncing these names wrong, but yeah. Kirishima is very important in part of the internship arc in the manga. And I think the next game, if we get it, it will have from after the All for One fight through the provisional arc through the end of Season 4, basically. In story, and Kirishima would be around there, probably. And he's a member of Class A, like, he's like Bakugo's friend, so... And he's a cool character, so, like, again, I don't see why we won't get Kirishima. Next up is Uraraka. You know, Gravity Girl. Uravity. I mean, she was good in the original game. She's female representation, and again, she's one of the main characters. We're not gonna not get her. Eraserhead, because he's cool, and he's like the Kakashi of this universe. This is number 6, by the way. Yeah, Eraserhead we will get, because he was in the first game, and he's their homeroom teacher. 7, Shigaraki. And I know a lot of these are self-explanatory. I'm just going to go over them briefly, but the ones that might not be self-explanatory, I'm definitely going to go into more. Shigaraki, yeah, he's a villain. He's a cool villain. His quirk is really cool in my opinion, although he can be somewhat of a man-child. I mean, being able to touch anything and have it decay, no, that's cool. And he, if I'm remembering correctly, he wasn't that great in One's Justice. I mean, it's been a little while since I played it, but he wasn't that great in One's Justice. And I'd love to see them take him and make him a little better. And if we don't see that, at least put him in the game. I don't see why we wouldn't, because they're setting him up to be the main antagonist of the story. Like, I think he'll evolve as a character to where he will be the next All for One, you know? I mean, they seem to be setting that up, at least in the anime. And number 8, we have Ida, Tenya. Do I have to explain this? Yeah, he's not very prevalent in where the manga is right now. But again, he's one of Deku's friends. He's in the Stain arc quite a bit. Actually, the whole arc's pretty much around him. And yeah, he's fast, he's cool. Quirk is Engine. I mean, he's like the Flash, except for not as fast, but you know, Engine. Anyway, next up, number 9 is one that wasn't in the first game, and it's the first one on this list that wasn't in the first game. That's Mirio Togata from the Big 3. He and the next person on this list are the 2 of the 3 Big 3 characters I think will make it into the game. Mirio is, as Aizawa said, he's the man closest to All Might level. Like, after the fight with All for One, and All Might, you know, becomes Small Might for good. Eraserhead even says he's probably closer to All Might's level than even Endeavor is. And we see him beat the crap out of all of Class 1A. Except for Todoroki. And I don't remember if Bakugo was there. But pretty much the rest of the entire class is wiped the floor with. And it just shows how powerful and strong he is. And then, I haven't gotten to this part of the manga, but from what I know, the internship arc, he's a big role in that as well. Next we have Sun Eater. Again, I don't know much about him. He's another part of the Big 3. And he's part of the internship arc. You know, I don't see why we won't get him. Now, if we only get one of the Big 3, obviously we're going to get Mirio. But hopefully we'll see him, because I'd love to learn more about him, and once I get caught up in the manga, well, I'll know more about him, and I'll be able to share more. But 11, we have Furopi. Fan favorite again. She was in the first game. I don't see why she wouldn't be in this game. She's not as big of a character as maybe some of the other characters I mentioned, but, you know, people like Froppy. I personally am not the biggest fan of her. Like, I mean, she's a good character like all the other characters, or like most of the other characters, but, like, she's not super important to me that I would give up. Like, I would give up her spot if I could have someone like... Who would I give it to? Tokoyami. Tokoyami would be awesome, because he was also in the first game, but I don't think he'll be in the game. But at least I don't think. Yeah, I don't think he'll be in the game. I mean, he didn't make it onto my list, so why am I talking about this and doubting myself? Anyway, next up we'll have All Might. All Might was such a big character in the beginning of it. Yeah, even though he, you know, went a little overboard in the All-for-One fight. I wouldn't say actually, not overboard, but you know what I mean. Although the fact that he went in the All-for-One fight and used up pretty much all of his power, again, he's like the symbol of the series, besides Deku. Like, when you pick up your first manga volume, you just see him on the front page of the volume collection, of the 7-chapter collection. But he's also just such a big symbol. I mean, he's literally the symbol of peace in their universe. Yeah, he's in. Number 13 is the one I want to see so bad. I think they'll put him in, but I don't know for sure. And the reason I'm saying he's kind of like a wild card. The reason I'm saying best genist is because of the popularity polls. That's it. Popularity polls. His quirk is cool. He can manipulate fibers, if you don't know. And I think it would be really fun to have combat with him, like manipulating the fibers, maybe paralysis effects on enemy characters, because they all wear clothes, so why wouldn't he be able to just paralyze them and string them up with the fibers? Yeah, I think Best Genist will be really cool if he's in the game. I would definitely play him. Number 14, we have 11 after this one. Overhaul. Do I have to explain this one? Actually, I probably do to people who haven't read the manga. Overhaul is, he's like the big bad guy of Season 4, or what I think will be Season 4. What I know will be Season 4. They set him up at the end of Season 3. And he's a big part of the manga. Like, he's the bad guy, you know? He's gonna be a big bad guy that we have to go heroes, we have to defeat him. 15, Inasa, the wind guy from the provisional license exams. I put him and another guy from the provisional license exams on here because that's where I think the story mode will pick up for My Hero One's Justice 2. I think it will start with Class 1A going to the provisional license exams and meeting Inasa and going in and fighting the Battle Royale that was awesome, may I add. I love that arc. Yeah, I think he was fun in One's Justice 1 as a DLC character, and I'd love to see them do more with him. 16 is another one that I think they'll add because female representation. If you don't have enough of that, you'll get controversy. And she's also cool. She was top tier in My Hero One's Justice, and that's Jiro. Jiro, I mean, I love her quirk. The fact that she can just send sound waves through the earphone jacks on her ear. Like, that's just cool. and she can blast a sound blast at people, and I don't see why she won't be in the game. Momo's quirk is creation. They didn't really do the best job with, in my opinion, in One's Justice, the original. Although, I really want to see them do more with it. I want to see it in the game. I think it will be in the game, because, again, female representation. And if you're going to have Todoroki, why not just have his wannabe waifu, right? 18 is another guy from the provisional license exam, so I talked a bit about earlier. I didn't name him. That's Gang Orca. The number 10 or 11 hero now, one or the other. He is... he's the bad guy he plays the role of villain, although he's a hero in the provisional licensing exam arc. And as I've explained, I think that'll be the arc where the story begins. So if he's not playable, he'll at least be almost like Nomu in that sense, where he wasn't playable in the first one, but you get to fight him. 19 is Dobby. Dobby's cool. He has fireballs, blue fire, which adds to the coolness. And the thing with Dobby is just the theory with him being Todoroki's brother. I'm not going to get into it. I don't know much about it. I've just heard about it. But Dobby is just... he gives me that vibe of he's a badass. But, yeah, I don't know. He'll be in the game. He's on my list of predictions because villains will be a big part of this. You know, it's My Hero Academia. You can't have heroes without villains, right? And, yeah, Dobby will be good zoning if we see him again, when we see him again, if this game is real, which I really hope it is, because I enjoyed the first one so much. 20 is Toga. Her quirk, they could do a lot with it. It seems like it might be hard to code, because, she becomes the other character, and they'd have to do it for each character. But they did it in the first game. I don't see why they won't put her in again, especially in the provisional licensing exam where she takes over and makes up that persona of Cammy. 21 is Twice. Twice is unique in his mindset. So if you don't know much about Twice, he was in the training camp arc. Didn't do much, except for make clones of Dobby. Twice is cool in my eyes, and I think they'll put him in the game, because I've heard that he's more prevalent in the manga. But at the end of Season 3, they talk about how he used his quirk to multiply himself to, make his life easier. And eventually they started killing each other. And now he lives with the fact haunting him that he doesn't know if he's the original Twice or not, or if they killed the original and he's a copy. And that haunts him. I think that's really cool. I also think he'd be really fun to play as. Because, I think they could do something of, you make a clone, the clone, you swap to the clone's position, and the original kind of disappears. Or you could it could be like a shadow clone kind of effect. I don't know, I think it would be fun to play as, and I think they'll put him in the game because he's a villain. 22, we have Endeavor. I think he'll be in base game. Because pro heroes are cool, and Endeavor was DLC last game. I want to see him in the game. I think he will be in the game. I know I'm repeating myself. I feel like I'm repeating myself. But, yeah, Endeavor is going to be in. 23. Tetsu. This is another wild card. I mean, he's like Kirishima. He'd be easy to make. Whereas you just give him and Kirishima the same moveset, or almost the same moveset, tweak it a little bit. But he's my favorite of Class B, the one I think that they'll put in if they put in a Class 1B character. And you know, metal versus rock. The Kirishima versus Tetsu matches would be fun. 24 is Kaminari. Kaminari is another one that I'm not 100% sure on. But with popularity polls, I think they'll put him in. 25, the final one on our list, is Mashirao Ojiro. Or Ojiro, Mashirao. Wherever you're from, you'll say the names in different order. I think he would be very fun to play. I think he will be a very cool character because of his tail. He would be very unique in combos, I think, but at the same time, probably one of the more simple to learn characters. If we see him, he's another wild card. But I think he would be a lot of fun to play, and I think he'll be in it because he made it onto the popularity polls, and if we're going off the popularity polls, he's made it onto the top 20 multiple times, I believe. So I don't see why we would like pick someone like that's lesser known and less of a favorite, like, I don't know, Sir Night-Eye, who doesn't have much combat ability from what I know, compared to Ojiro, who literally has a fleshy tail on it that he can beat people with. Like, that's cool. I want to play as him. Anyway, sorry, this is my first video, and I hope you enjoyed it. The walrus has to go to sleep for 5 minutes. And by 5 minutes, I mean for the rest of the day. Good night.